Hey there, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar on SOC as a Service 2.0. Why the future is hybrid. That's AI plus analyst plus architecture. Now, most enterprises are somewhere along in the middle of the journey of the SOC modernization. And this involves layering of new tools. We're talking about analytics and automation that's able to keep pace with AI-driven threats. Yet, alert fatigue, tool sprawl, and analyst shortages still exist. The uncomfortable truth, ladies and gentlemen, is this. The modernization journey isn't the same as modernizing defense. Now, in this session, we are going to reframe the conversation from more tools to better outcomes with a hybrid model, where AI, human expertise, and connected architecture work in tandem. Now, in today's webinar, we are joined by Tata Communications, and we are going to be decoding SOC as a Service 2.0. Right? And we are going to be talking about the journey from modernization to resilience, why tooling growth failed to bend the MTTR curve. And also we are going to be looking at AI as an enabler and how we can let AI handle correlation, context, and toil. We'll be looking at architecture is destiny without connected fabric, how it can stall and what's the best way around it. We'll also be learning how to operate as one system. And this talks about converging telemetry, identity, and network policy for decisive action. Very importantly, we'll also be looking at how to show proof over promises. How do we show outcomes that show operational guide with the presence of operational guardrails, which includes governance, audit, and compliance. Now, joining me in today's webinar, we've got Mehnaz Mehta. She's the General Manager, Managed Security Services Solutions Technical Specialist at India at Tata Communications. Mehnaz, good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar.
Good afternoon, Shamik. Thank you.
Hey there. We have also got Arvind Kumar. He's the Global Head of Solutions and Business Development Cybersecurity at Tata Communications. Arvind, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Shamik, and thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Now, folks, do remember that we want this webinar to be extremely conversational. We want this to be highly interactive. So do feel free to share your questions with us in the Q&A box. Our specialists out here from Tatacom would be more than happy to answer your questions. We've also got a couple of poll questions lined up. So do participate and then let us know where you are and what do you think of SOC modernization. And with that, let me hand it over to Mehnaz. Mehnaz, take it away. Tell us a little bit about how Tatacom is looking at SOC modernization and what is it that the future demands.
Thank you, Shamik. Thank you. So I would just like to start by what is the real world modern SOC reality as of today, right? So when we talk of SOC transformation projects, we see that there are a lot of technologies that the customers are looking for. So the technologies could range from multiple network security, endpoint security, the automation remediation. But what happens when you deploy so many technologies in the environment? One is there is too much data coming in. There are too many signals. There are multiple dashboards. And there is not enough contextual information to actually understand what is happening in the environment. And because of this, the result is, but obviously it's more chaos. And there is so much of, alerts and fatigues that the analysts who are actually working on these solutions actually burn out. So as of today, what the poll says that about 72% of the SOC teams feel overwhelmed. And this is a study which is done by Trend Micro today. So while we are continuing to add more and more technologies into the environment, it does not necessarily mean that you are more resilient towards the attacks that are happening as of today. Now, we see that all attacks today are powered by AI, right? So what exactly happens when these attacks are powered by AI? The phishing attacks that are happening today are all AI enabled, right? You don't have a hacker sitting behind a particular domain and at getting those attacks done. The exploits are moving faster today than manual detection. The zero-day exploits are growing up. And why are these growing is because the attack surface is growing. So while the customers initially used to be completely on site or in the cloud, now it's more of a hybrid environment. There are SaaS services, there are private clouds, etc. So the growing attack surface is also creating a lot of powered threats which customers are unable to detect. And what happens when these threats are undetected? There is malware that comes into the environment. and the exploit because of that malware is tremendous and is rapid. The lateral movement today is much, much faster than what humans can analyze, right? So we don't know when and how a particular malware would have entered into the environment, but only if and when a particular attack is done or there is some abnormal behavior, at that point in time, we come to know that there is a lateral movement that is happening within the environment. So despite of, having so many tools and having the best of breed tools and human analysts sitting there, why are these SOC modernization journeys still failing? The first and foremost is lack of vision or a purpose. Most of the customers today are either, putting these technologies for a compliance purposes, or they have specific use cases or areas which they want to target. They are not able to visualize the holistic approach or the holistic view of why a SOC modernization should be taken into account. Multiple tools give you multiple intelligence feeds. Deduplication of those feeds, analyzing whether those feeds are actually true positives is another major task for the customers. Integration and orchestration. Now, while you have so many tools in the environment, they should be able to integrate together and orchestrate and work together. Orchestration of these tools is one of the major challenges that a lot of customers face as of today. And automation without context. So while we continue to automate individual technologies or a few technologies together, if they don't work in tandem together, there will be too much of noise and there will be too many false positives for the human analysts to understand. And that again causes a lot of fatigue. Talent scarcity is one of the major challenges that a lot of customers face today. While you may have the best of the breed technologies deployed, getting resources to manage those technologies is a huge task for everyone. And because the day two journey, you don't have the talent, it becomes neglected, or it becomes a check in the box, or it becomes a broken journey for us. Right. So these are the few reasons why a lot of SOC modernization journeys are failing today. So while we spoke so far, let's take a quick poll question here. If our customers on this call have any similar issues, or are they, convenient and they are okay with whatever the SOC is delivering to the expectations?
Sure. Folks, let's share your inputs in the first poll. That's going to be important for Mehnaz as well to take her conversation, her points forward during her presentation. And we are getting some interesting questions. One of which has been, are we going to get a recording of this webinar? Yes, you're going to find this in the webinar section of the ETCISO website. But then do hang around live. You'll be able to interact with our experts and also share your inputs via the poll. Another quick question by Devendra Devani, who's talking about what do you mean by alert fatigue? Is the sheer volume of alerts that our CISOs normally receive. Mehnaz, in your experience, approximately how many alerts do you think a SOC receives or a CISO has to deal with on a daily basis?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, when these multiple technologies are deployed and they are not fine-tuned for the false positives, the initial alert fatigue is going to be in hundreds per day at least, right? And imagine if you have resources sitting in a shift, you may not have more than 4 to 5 resources in a shift.
Correct.
For those 4 to 5 resources to actually understand, analyze, and figure out where that particular alert has come from, and first of all, most importantly, classifying it as a true positive or a false positive, that is where the actual fatigue comes into the picture. So unless and until we don't know whether the alert is actually a real alert or a false alert, that is going to be a lot of heavy on the human analyst that is sitting over there.
Right. Thank you for that, Mehnaz. I think, Devendra, thank you for your question. I hope that answers it. And team, can we close the poll and let's have a look at the results on our screen, please? Yeah, about 61% of them are saying that, yes, they do face similar issues, while 33%, a third of them are saying that my SOC is delivering to my expectations. Your experience in the market, Mehnaz, I mean, is this something that you've observed in the Indian enterprise as well? About 2/3 of them express the fact that, we are facing a lot of issues with our existing SOCs.
That's right, Swami. So a lot of customers today, when we meet them, they have, the best in place tools, but either those tools are not, properly configured, they are not integrated with the technologies that they should be for a complete automation takeover. correct? So when an incident or an alert comes in, there should be at least 70 to 80% automation happening via those tools itself, so that the human fatigue can be reduced and the customer can actually see the benefit of deploying those multiple tools. That somewhere is missing as of today.
Understood. Right. And also to add on to Mehna's point around alert fatigue, do remember that SOC analysts have the highest rate of burnout among IT professionals. So that's another very important point that you need to keep in mind when you're talking about SOC modernization. All right, carry on, Mehnas.
Thank you, Samik. Okay. So what is the answer to the problems that we have spoken so far, right? So hybrid intelligence. Now, what does hybrid intelligence mean? Hybrid intelligence is basically a three-pillar led intelligence domain. One is connected architecture. So while a customer would have assets or information across the cloud, network, and multiple endpoints, it could be roaming endpoints, whatever kind of endpoints do you have, there should be a complete visibility layer across all of these environments for the customer. Once they have the complete visibility, they will be able to analyze much more and much better on what exactly should be done to help and create a more robust security architecture for them. AI precision, while the whole world is talking about AI today, let's understand where and how AI should be used, right? So we need to first understand and create a threshold where you can recognize certain abnormal behaviors or patterns. You can predict what is going to happen with those abnormal behavior and patterns. And how are you going to automate should there be a prediction which is of a high intensity? Analyst judgment, while the above two pillars can be completely automated or can be used via tools, there has to be some amount of human intervention to understand the context, to understand the intent, and align it with the customer's business alignment. Now, why would this model actually work? First is, if you have a connected architecture and you have visibility across your multiple vectors where your data and information resides, you will reduce your business risk when you are having a resilience model in place. That can happen through continuous monitoring. So your monitoring tools, your protection tools can continue to monitor and protect all the information across these vectors. When you have an AI precision, you are definitely by default improving your MTTD and the MTTR, which is the visibility to understand an incident and the speed to detect the incident and response to the incident without increasing the headcount exponentially. And an analyst judgment who understands the context and aligns it with the business of the customer. The most important is meeting the compliance for the customers, right? Because most of these tools that the customers have are either regulated by the entities that they are authorized for or by the compliance modules that they have to adhere to. Once you meet the compliance, you are also governing and reporting all of these compliances and reports as per the requirements of the governing entities. So this is what we feel at Tata Communications should be the three-focused or the three-pronged approach for all customers to take up when they're looking at or thinking about modernizing their existing SOC environment. Now, we would quickly like to talk on a particular case study where we had shifted from the customers from the traditional SOC environment to a SOC transformation environment is what we call. So what does this case study have? A case study has tools which are, of course, as of all OEMs who maintain that they are AI ML enabled, how the analyst would validate and how the architecture would isolate. So let's take the case of a large Indian customer where Tata Communications has deployed an on-premise next generation SOC for the customer. It has more than 25 plus technologies. Now, having these 25 plus technologies and integrating them and enabling the orchestration is a humongous task. And that is where, our intelligence comes into the picture. Using the AI modules or using the AI capabilities of these particular technologies, we are able to understand which technology should integrate with which other technology and how using the pattern recognition or the AI recognition, we are able to find threats and then understand what is the intensity of those particular threats. Once we understand the intensity of the particular threats, we have an analyst who validates this. While the analyst validates this, there is also a knowledge base that we continue to create and continue to update. So similar threats of a similar nature, which have already been validated before, can be automated and action can be taken accordingly. Now, while we analyze and while we detect threats, isolation of those particular log sources or endpoints from the environment to ensure that there is no additional damage that is being done to the environment is very, very important. So using these technologies or using the SOAR methodology of the technology, we are actually able to isolate endpoints or network devices, if possible, from the particular network infrastructure so that the lateral movement or the damage can be minimized or reduced. This is where we are helping the customer. One is from a compliance standpoint, two is from a regulatory standpoint, and lastly, from aligning with their business resilience, because their core business is to ensure that whatever they are providing to the customer is in a completely secure and a safe environment. Now, what does Tata Communications do in the SOC modernization journey, right? So we have been in the SOC modernization journey for about 16 years now. And while the world has moved towards the AI/ML capabilities, we have also aligned with those capabilities and provide the best-in-class solutions, implementation and management for our customers. So first is we prefer to have a business-aligned strategy. So when we say business-aligned strategy, we try to understand what is the business the customer is in, what are the risk factors for that particular customer. While compliance can be one of the risk factors, we need to understand what is it that the customer is more capable of, what are their crown jewels, and how can we protect the crown jewels. It may not be only through tools, it can be through the existing tools which can be leveraged or other services that we can offer to the customer. The data foundation, where is the data residing for the customer? Where it is residing on-premise, it's residing on the endpoints, it's residing on some SFTP server, SaaS solution, etc. Once we find that data, then we try to do some data modernization or data classification exercises on this data, and then analyze the business patterns of accessing that particular data. Automation, of course, everybody's talking of automation today. That is what the SOC modernization is all about. So SOAR is the heart of automation. So implementation and orchestration of all the technologies around SOAR is of complete importance to achieve the SOC modernization. With SOAR, if it is properly integrated with the technologies and understood as to what automated action needs to be taken for a particular incident or an alert, we are able to respond faster. We are able to reduce whatever damage that could have happened to the customer's environment. And that helps the customer to have, the analyst freed and they can focus on other objectives for the customer. Upskill, people modernization. So while we have resources that are deployed at the customer premises for human intervention, those resources also should be constantly updated with whatever skill sets that they have, not only on the technology, but on the other industry trends and certifications as well. When we measure the outcomes of what has been delivered so far, it has to be completely crystal and clear so that the CXO level community in that particular customer environment understands what they have invested in and what is the ROI that they're going to get out of having the SOC modernization. And lastly, continuous improvement. Once we deploy a particular environment, it does not need to run as is for the next 3 to 5 years. There is always a need for continuous improvement. So rule fine-tuning, policy fine-tuning, playbook fine-tuning, use case fine-tuning, all of these fine-tunings are something that we do as part of our day-to-day operation skill set. And lastly, while we are talking of all of this, what is legacy SOC versus modern SOC and why should we look at an upgrade, right? First and foremost is alert fatigue. So as Soumik mentioned, SOC analysts have the highest level of alert fatigue in the cybersecurity industry. So how do we ensure that the human resources that are deployed at the customer environment are not fatigued with too many alerts without enough contextual information? So one is proactive defense. So while we all talk of defense solutions and detection solutions, understanding the pattern behavior, thresholding and baselining that pattern behavior is of utmost importance for all of us. Manual triage. There are a lot of customers who are still running with manual triage and manually trying to understand the incidents and alerts. But when you have solutions like a SOAR, the enrichment and the response that is handled by the orchestration tools allows manual triage to be at a minimum. Soiled tools, again, when we have multiple tools in the environment and they are not efficiently integrated with each other, the efficacy of these tools will not be seen. right? And that again results in a manual fatigue and alert fatigue and a manual triage. So, unified detection and response. All of these solutions should try to work together in tandem, either via a SOAR or with each other. And that is how we have an all-in-one environment. High false positives. So initially, when we deploy solutions, there is definitely going to be a lot of high false positives, but fine-tuning it over a period of few weeks or months helps the customers to reduce the true positives, reduce the noise, and actually understand what are the real alarm alerts coming into the environment. Visibility, which is limited. As I mentioned earlier, today's customers have information across multiple vectors, and this limited visibility and blind spots is something that attackers can attack, which even customers may not be aware of. Hence, complete visibility or a unified visibility is something that customers should definitely invest in as part of modern SOC. And lastly, reactiveness. Legacy SOC problems only allow you to react once an alert or an incident has taken place, or customers come to know it from their own regulatory authorities. Threat intel is one of the proactive parts of a SOC modernization, where customers have visibility into whatever the IOCs and IOAs that are looming across the globe. And those particular IOCs and IOAs are ingested into the platform to give the proactive intelligence to the SIM platform. So this is why a lot of us should look at modern SOC. And if you see, there are no tools that we are talking about over here. These are business processes and SOPs that should be definitely followed to achieve maximum ROI from the tools that are invested in the customer environment. So while we spoke of, all the three pillars of SOC modernization and what is the difference between legacy and SOC, can we quickly take a poll on which legacy problem resonates as the highest level for all our customers here?
Thank you for that, Mehnaz. I think you covered some really important points there. And I'm really keen on this poll as well. We've heard about legacy problems as a whole, but then we haven't really, drilled down into which legacy problem actually is the biggest source of the problem. So do take your pick. Is it on alert fatigue, or is it manual triaging, silo tools, high false fatigue, and also limited visibility, or reactive posture? Let's see what our audience resonates with. I think questions starting to come by. Piyush, thank you for your question. Also, Dr. Venkateshan. We're going to be addressing your questions in the last segment. We've kept about 5 or 10 minutes for that, so we'll be taking all of your questions. Do submit your questions in the Q&A box. Our leaders here would be more than happy to address them for you. So do keep them coming. All right, team. I think we've got enough responses. Can we have a look at the poll results, please? Whoa. 45% of them are saying all of the above. And I think followed very closely by limited visibility and also high false fatigue. Would you like to elaborate on this, Mehnaz? I mean, have you seen limited visibility and also high false fatigue becoming a problem, especially for Indian enterprises?
That's right. So limited visibility, Soumik, is basically when there is data and information dispersed across multiple segments, right? So customers have partners, customers have contractors, contractors have information about their end customers, right? So a lot of time the customers don't have visibility to how much information or data the third parties have access to.
Right.
So while we talk of SFTPs also as a secure email or a secure file transfer, there are ways to break down that as well. So maybe that is where is the limited visibility that the customers are talking about. High fatigue, definitely yes, as you also mentioned. Any tool that is deployed into the environment initially has a lot of false positives, and you need people or MSSPs with expertise to understand how to fine tune those rules and reduce that amount of alert fatigue that is there.
Right. Understood. Thanks for that. Carry on, Mehnaz.
Yeah. So I think now we can move on to the fireside chat session with Arvind.
Sure. Now, folks, a lot of your questions that have been coming in are pretty much in line with what I had planned up for the fireside chat with Arvind here. Now, do share your questions. Do keep them coming. I'll try and incorporate them in my fireside chat as well. Now, Arvind here, as you know, he looks at the solutions and the business development side of it from the cybersecurity perspective, and he's the global head, so he's got a worldwide perspective. So he can really throw some light on the role of AI in the modern SOC, and also we've been having this conversation, Arvind, on how much AI is too much AI in the SOC. So, in your opinion, tell me a little bit about how do you see the role of AI actually positively transforming the modern SOC, and also how do you draw a line between augmentation and also over automation? Where do you think it can go overboard and have negative outcomes for industries or CISOs?
Sure. Thanks, Swamik, and it is a great question. So before I answer this question, let me probably go back to the history. So from early 90 to 2000 is the pre-SIEM days, and you have log management as a basic solution. The requirement was to have a basic log intelligence along with IDS. And early 2000, which is generation 1, same was prime objective was to have a log and have some kind of basic rule engine to give you data. Who has done what? Then you got a Gen 2, which got some kind of intelligence where you go and add a enrichment using a threat intelligence. It adds a lot of context to the data. Then you got a Gen 3, Gen 2, or you call it modern SOC, where you have got a lot of other components, like you got Uber, you got threat intelligence, you got contextual information. So this has been going on along with SOAR, because SOAR brings a lot of automation capability. But early 2023 and onwards, then suddenly you have seen the probably the adoption of AI agent. And today, the big word, I think buzzword is agentic AI.
Correct.
So it solves a problem for a lot of mundane tasks. Doing a triaging. Imagine, probably we have been discussing last 25-30 minutes where alert fatigue is the biggest issue for SOC team, any SOC team. Imagine a scenario, a general or commander goes in a war and suddenly he realized that he has only 100 probably foot soldier, but the opposite army has 1,000 foot soldier.
Right.
How are you going to defend your boundary? The same way, look at SOC team also. In the night time, you have very lean shift. You have 1 or 2 people. Suddenly incident happen, you have tons of alerts. You don't have resources to manage during that time. So AI agent comes very handy to triage these issues much faster. It also helps you to kind of take a decision, but it becomes too much when your decision, your AI agent or agentic AI is doing a judgmental decision as well. Because AI agent or AI agentic AI is a black box. You really don't know what is happening inside. Imagine a scenario. You have gone with full agentic AI led SOC and something goes wrong with the entire LLM model. And if you have to roll back to the manual operation, how will you do it? Because your team is not skilled. Everything is black box. So ideal balance should be AI should assess human and humans makes the decision.
Right. Understood. All right. Now, the other question that we have, of course, is if you're looking at governance and accountability frameworks. Now, who owns what in the event of a cybersecurity incident. We've got a lot of C-suite executives right now. We've got the CISO, of course. We've got chief risk officers. We have also got DPOs at this point. So, in your opinion, what do you think is the best oiled machinery when it comes to who owns what in the event of a cybersecurity incident?
It's a great question again, Soumik, and there's a concept called shared responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
When crises happen, everybody has a role to play.
Right.
The CEO has a role to play, how to communicate to the external stakeholders, how to communicate internal stakeholders. CIO has a role to play to ensure that all the resources are aligned to contain the issue. CISO role is also very important to communicate to all the compliance, all the regulators, and look at the incident. So it is not an individual responsibility. It is a shared responsibility between all the CXOs.
Right. Right. Understood. All right. And, the other conversation that we always have, when it comes to especially building SOCs is, the build versus buy decision, which is faced by a lot of not just CISOs, but CIOs and CTOs as well. So if you're talking about a captive SOC versus a managed SOC, what are some of the parameters that, enterprises, a modern enterprise should weigh in on before they decide whether they're going to go for a captive SOC or they're going to go for a managed SOC?
So, there are multiple parameters on which most of the
Mhm.
customers takes a decision. The first parameter is the scale of the business. If you are a mid-tier organization or SMB organization, or even your enterprise organization, but your IT landscape is small. And from a regulation per se, you're not highly regulated entity.
Mhm.
Probably it makes sense to look at MSSP player
Okay.
because your skills, talent lies to do your own business.
Mhm.
Your organization is not prepared to run SOC where they'll have 20 people team to manage their operation.
Correct.
Whereas large organization, again with a large asset base and highly regulated entity, it makes sense to do investment. There also you have a two probably the decision criteria whether you want to build it yourself, you want to go and have people on your own payroll, or build on premise or dedicated for yourself, but get an expert to run for you.
Right.
You need a people who are skilled to run this entire operation for you because again, it is not your core business. And in security business, since the resources are very scarce in the market, retaining the talent for the organization for whom it is not a core business is going to be very difficult.
Right. Right.
So it's always a build versus buy, and in SOC is like choosing MSSP versus captive setup is combination of your organization landscape, your regulation plays a big role. So these are some of the parameters you should keep in mind while deciding MSSP versus captive setup.
Correct. Correct. And in fact, what you just expressed out there, Arvind, is pretty much in line with one of the questions that we also had from one of our attendees out here. Antonio Rodriguez here stated that skills shortage and burnout is also an overlooked problem, which is,
Yes.
rightly as you pointed out. And we've also got industry stats. I think there was a recent industry stat I was reading where about 80% of organizations actually said that they had fewer than 5 analysts in a SOC. And that is terribly shorthanded when you're looking at modern threats and the attack surface that a modern enterprise has to deal with. So yeah, thanks for that, and great point that you brought up
Yes,
there.
and
Keep those
Soumik,
questions coming in.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Soumik, if you look at even the market trend as well,
Mhm.
probably 90% customer probably go with MSSP way.
Right.
because it is easier for them to manage and they look for outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing they are ensuring that the governance model is very strong, though it is
Right.
outsourced on MSSP model, but they have very good governance process in place.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Thank you for that. All right. And, also when it comes to CISOs, one of their core deliverables, be it for any IT function, be it for CIOs as well, is ROI. So, in your opinion, how should CISOs think about ROI? And also, how do you mitigate the long-term costs, or how do you look at the long-term cost models in SOC modernization? Do we look for value that go beyond tools? Uh, you know, can we tie in a dollar amount to that, and how do you go about it?
Yeah, so this debate has been going on from probably decades,
Yeah.
whether the security can produce ROI. And I think there's no right or there's wrong answer in this, because if you're able to communicate to business leaders, board members in a business language, justification of any security investment become easier.
Right.
And in fact, it has become much easier post COVID, where uh, people have been educated by and large, because a lot of security incident not towards the organization, even happening now for the end users as well. In our
Mm-hmm.
personal life, everybody is getting a scam, and I'm
Yeah.
sure uh, all the attendee here, they must be getting multiple emails, phishing emails on their personal email ID. They must be getting multiple call stating that your telephone number will get blocked next half an hour's time. There are multiple things you keep seeing on a regular basis. So I think
Right.
that is helping most of the CISO also to secure budget, but obviously, if able to justify the business outcome, the life is becoming very easy. Because
Understood.
what board look at is predictable cost. They also want to ensure that the risk is getting reduced, and
Right.
they also look at a long term efficiency.
Correct. Correct. And I think with the new implementation of the new DPDP rules, as well as institutions like RBI, IRDAI, and SEBI, with them tightening the knocks, tightening the noose, and really hammering down cybersecurity. I think ROI is becoming an easier conversation for CISOs to have
Yes.
with their boards, and I think the purse strings are opening up, which is a good sign. All right. Now, the other question that I had was, we talked about implementation challenges, and Mehenaz here talked about quite a few. Um, you've worked with a lot of organizations out there with CISOs across the board, across various verticals. What are some of the biggest implementation challenges enterprise face when you're trying to modernize a SOC? And also, if you could identify which are some of the easy wins, the low-hanging fruits that organizations can target before they look at the bigger problems.
Uh, so I think this problem is can be solved probably if you take a phased approach, and what we have seen with most of the organization is they're able to get their assets onboarded much faster if they have a visibility of their asset base. The biggest
Okay.
challenge most of the organization has today is they really don't know what their crown jewels are.
Right.
First, we as a service provider, our job is to help customers to identify their crown jewels,
Mm-hmm.
onboard them, so the quick win to the organization. And especially if you look at most of the SOC modernization journey which you have seen, you go and onboard all the IT assets, which is your server, network devices, security assets, and phase two, you take applications,
Mm-hmm.
because applications are the one who take maximum time.
Right.
But if you're able to showcase the value to the organization is the first thing is to get all the assets onboarded. So the visibility, start doing correlation. That's how
Right.
that's how you
Right.
should look at Soumik, in my view.
Understood. Mehnaz, would you want to weigh in with your thoughts as well? Because when we're looking at implementation challenges, we typically talk about process, people, we talk about architecture and the culture. Uh, in your opinion, where do enterprises tend to drop the ball? Is it a process problem, or is it a people problem, or an architecture or tech problem?
So basically, what I feel, Soumik, is that it's a problem at every level, right? Because we expect technologies to, give us the best of the world, breed understanding, the AI ML and the automation part of it. But the question is, do we actually know how to deploy it? Do we actually need it? And even if we do deploy it, what is the sanity check? What are the maker checkers that we're doing? Right? That is something that we are not
Right.
doing as of today. Second is, as I mentioned, and I will reiterate, the automation and orchestration amongst these technologies is of utmost importance. While technology vendors work in silos, when it comes
Mhm.
to deploying these technologies in the same environment, there has to be an integration at some point in time with these technologies. Correct? These cannot work in a siloed approach. And lastly is the overall visibility, the
Mhm.
continued visibility and the continuous improvement that needs to be done on these technologies that are in the environment is only what is going to get the customers from here to there.
Got it. Got it. All right. Now, Arvind, we're talking about this concept and this entire topic of visibility. Um, if you could, share your thoughts on how can network service providers add more value in the SOC journey, especially if you're talking about visibility from a network layer, how do you go about strengthening detection, response, and resilience? What more can network service providers do when it comes to contributing to visibility?
Thanks, Swapnik, for again, it's a good question. Since we are one of the large service provider globally, uh, most of the service provider, at least the large ones, have a visibility across the internet. They get to know a lot of things upfront
Mhm.
through our honeypot channels, through our uh, network traffic analysis channel. We get to know a lot of malicious IP has. So all these data get pumped into your threat intelligence platform, and in turn, this data goes to our SOC platform. It helps
Mhm.
us to obviously triage much better because the investment of the log is much better than any other service provider in the industry who's not
Right.
from a telco or network background.
Right. Right.
And to add on top of this, most of the telco, at least some of the telco which I'm aware of, they have a huge DDoS scrubbing form, and
Mhm.
these are scrubbing forms gives huge data sets. Because if you look at globally, DDoS attack has gone up multifold last one
Okay.
decade, and during the any geopolitical scenario, it goes probably exponentially very high.
Correct.
Yeah, so those intelligence is something which we're able to give it to a customer and add value to customer.
Got it. Got it. Absolutely. And I think your position as well when it comes to Tatacom. You also have that visibility into network that gives you an added perspective when it comes to security. And also do remember that this kind of knowledge, this kind of visibility is not only important for detecting new threats or stopping threats, but also it works out in the event. Post a cybersecurity event. If you're looking at forensics, it would also serve well to actually trace back your roots and see where the traffic originated from. So yeah, great points out there. All right. So with that, I think we can pretty much come to the close of our five-set questions, and now we open it up to the audience Q&A. We've answered a couple of questions along the way, but then I think we've got a few more interesting ones lined up for us. I'll take the easiest one. That's coming from Venkatesan Lakshmi Narasimhan. And in addition to Arvind Mehnaz, if you could jump in with your thoughts as well, feel free to take a stab at any of these questions. Okay, so Dr. Venkatesan is asking us if you are starting a new SOC, which applications to buy. So I presume if you're looking to build a brand new SOC from scratch, which are the first ones, which are the first applications that you need to be prioritizing?
See again, this decision is purely depends on your environment. If you're a cloud first company, probably you look at an application which is a cloud first.
Mm-hmm.
But if your entire environment is on premise, probably you look at on premise way of deployment. There also you have options to look at MSSP, because MSSP service product will give you the outcome based services irrespective whether your assets are on cloud or on premise.
Right. All right. Mehnaz, would you want to weigh in with your thoughts as well? Let's say you're trying to build a SOC from scratch. What applications are you going to be looking at first?
So first and foremost, I think, Soumik, we would be looking at compliances, right? What is the compliance that the customer has to adhere to?
Mehnaz, I'm not able to hear you. If you could just unmute yourself, please.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think we should see the compliance that the customers have to adhere to. Second is what is their current investment, and if the current investment can be augmented for further services from the same particular OEM provider. If not, then what is the best way to ensure that whatever is the current investment and the new technologies or services that we are bringing into the customer environment, how will they learn to coexist together? Right. And lastly, how can we manage the existing environment as well as the new environment? And again, I keep repeating the same thing. How can we orchestrate the entire environment for the customer so that we can ensure that the human fatigue is reduced, and as well as the customer gets a better ROI on their investment?
All right. I've got a quick follow-up question for you. Now, we know that a lot of these SOCs, they look splendid on day one, all right, but then they tend to degrade over time. So if you're looking at day two optimization, what are some of the factors that CISOs would need to bear in mind where they do not have to experience this degradation and performance of the SOC?
Yeah, so Swapnik, I think we discussed this one over. Let me reiterate this. The high level of governance is something is definitely required at a highest level. And you need to seek for the opportunity to review and try to look for the automation. So I see somebody has posted a question as well. SOAR as a capability in the SOC automation journey. And again, if you have followed last 2 years, there's always a question, SOAR versus agentic AI. Because SOAR as a platform help you to automate processes with defined tasks. Whereas agentic AI is able to do response, which is behavior based. It is not based on the if you do this, if do that. Whereas agentic AI is able to look at the incident, based on incident, he can take a decision and then work on a response automation. But question is whether the organization is ready for those full automation. Today, probably I've seen with my recent interaction with customers where they are not okay for the full automation. So that means we're not ready for agentic led SOC, because agentic led SOC, that will decide themselves and then probably move for automation, full automation.
Right.
So again,
but then we don't have the confidence at this point in time.
Exactly. So probably take some level of maturity. If moment you see there's a maturity is coming, then probably you should look for the full automation.
Got it. So to answer Sunil Karkhanis' question, how matured is the SOAR response practically? That would not disrupt businesses. You would say, you would definitely weigh SOAR above agentic AI solutions at this point in time.
Yes, and there are multiple approaches which customer can take. One is you go for the full. There are for the certain use cases which has been proven industry-wide, you should go for the full automation and take a benefit of it, because there's no point engaging your asset team to look at the automation for the cases where it's already proven in the industry. However, for the cases where you have a doubt, you can go for the hybrid automation, where human takes a decision and technology do automation.
Correct. Correct. All
So you
right.
have both the
I've got
choices
another
in
question.
place.
Sure. Another question, and this comes up around the costing part of it. Now, Manas, do weigh in with your thoughts as well. We are looking at a lot of logs, and we're looking at a lot of telemetry data, and with more endpoints, we're looking at volumes exploding like we've never seen before, and therefore it's got a direct implication on the cost as well. How can we balance both? How can we ensure that we are able to get the volumes of logs and telemetry data, but we're able to keep the cost at a minimum? Is there a way we can play the balancing act?
Yeah. So, Alex, the first thing is what we need to understand is, usually customers expect everything to be integrated, right? That is not the
Right.
correct way to do it. Everything does not need to be integrated. We need to first
Mm-hmm.
identify the log sources that should be integrated. Second is what kind of logs from those log sources need to be, extracted and fed into the SIM platform.
Right.
Ideally, only the ones that are required for the use case purposes should be pulled into the SIM platform. The rest should go into a separate syslog server for log retention and compliance purposes. So if we manage to do this, we will definitely, one, reduce a lot of false positives, right? And secondly, even while the false positives come in, if we have a better understanding of the customer environment and we have the correct set of people in the operations team who actually understand the difference between a true positive and a false positive, I believe we will be able to reduce that fatigue considerably in the first few months itself.
Understood. I'm going to slip in a cheeky one here. And, since we're talking about costing, and you did talk about, SOC and SIM solutions, what do you think CISOs should stop paying for or stop splurging on in their existing SOC or SIM setup? Are they overpaying for anything at this point in time?
It's a difficult question, Somik. Again, you have to look for the opportunity in terms
Mm-hmm.
of reducing your mean time to detect, mean time to response, because that gives a better ROI rather than looking at a cost factor.
Right.
Because at the
Understood.
end of the day, you want to reduce your organization risk.
Absolutely. Okay, there's one by Piyush Jain. I think that's pretty interesting. Now, we did talk about agentic AIs. We talked about AI agent SOCs, but then, how about replacing our human workforce with AI agents? So Piyush here is asking us, how do you view the impact of AI on the workforce, particularly in terms of AI agents taking over operational tasks, which were traditionally handled by analysts? What new opportunities or areas of focus might this create for analysts moving forward? I think it's an interesting question, slightly deviating from
Yes.
SOCs, but then, pretty relevant nonetheless.
Yes, and I think probably I'll take analogy for this question from a corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody joins the organization, you may take him as an interim, as an intern. You make him as a full-time employee, and you start elevating him. And probably 15 year, 20 year, 25 down the line, the organization he may become a CEO.
Yep.
Now take the same analogy for AI agent as well. When you take AI agent in your SOC journey, you should take as an intern. That means start doing a small task, look at the performance, then elevate the privileges he can do better job. Probably then again give him more permission where he can start taking decisions. Over a period of time, we get mature, then probably give him L2 task. But again,
Mm-hmm.
the point in AI domain is again, AI can take a decision, but if it is a judgmental decision, sometimes outcome is right, but because of the business context, you're not taking that decision and you're taking judgment. No, this is right. Still, I'm not going ahead with this. That
Right.
decision will be taken by humans.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, what avenues will SOC team will have? As I said,
Right.
human here to stay. They're not going away. But L1 team obviously is going to get a better opportunity to work on within the organization. It has never happened in the past if you've got multiple instances where human has been replaced.
Right. Correct. Absolutely. We're still not at that point yet. All right.
Yes.
That was a great question, Piyush. Thank you for sharing that question with us. We've got one quick question here coming in from Isaiah Peram, who's asking us, how long will it take to migrate from our regular SOC, which at this point is an IBM QRadar, to SOC as a service?
So I'll take this question, Somik. So a couple of our customers, we have migrated close to 2,500 asset-based customers in 14 days flat in our platform.
Right.
It's 2 weeks. But again, 14 days, we showcase the quick wins. That means almost 70 to 80% of the assets we have been able to onboard and go live with operation to ensure that customer is not running under risk. And remaining 20%, obviously, we have to build a plan, which is again 30 days, 60 days, 90 days plan to finish the entire integration in 90 days time. So typically, if you want to migrate from any SIEM platform to any other platform, and if it is MSSP, it can vary from 2 weeks to 3 months.
Right. Understood. All right. I think that takes care of most of the questions. I think we've got one last question by Anshul Ahlawat, who's asking us, what would be the best approach to prevent reverse engineering? Not sure with what respect are you referring to reverse engineering, but then if you would want to broad base that question, Arvind, what would you say? And as you can take a stab at it.
So if I take this question in the context of cybersecurity is malware reverse engineering, because this is what normally reverse engineering terms get used for. So obviously during entire triaging process, you find any malicious file. In that case, if you want to do reverse engineering to understand what kind of malware is this, to understand the pattern, probably you need to have a sandbox where you go and detonate this malware, do a reverse engineering and find out what is the root cause and how we can prevent this within the organization for infecting other systems.
Right.
So I don't know whether I've answered this question, but if Anchal can broaden his question, we'll be able to answer.
Sure. All right. I think that we've come to the end of our topics and our discussion points that we had lined up for you today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. To remember, you'll be able to find a recording of this webinar. It's going to be in our webinar sections of the ETCISO website. Give it a look in a week's time and you'll be able to find the entire recording there. Also, do remember that you're going to be getting a thank you mailer that's going to have a very important feedback form that's important for our executives here as well as us. Do fill that feedback form. It also gives you the opportunity to interact with Tatacom, look at consultation with respect to upgrading your SOC or modernizing your SOC, and then you could have a conversation with the experts out here. All right. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in for today's webinar. And thank you very much, Arvind, as well as Mehnaz. I think you weighed in with some brilliant points, some brilliant insights, and answering those questions from our attendees. With that, thank you. And this is Shomik signing off from ETCISO. You guys have a great day ahead.